Marcus Brennan owned 43 buildings across Manhattan. His hedge fund managed $8 billion. His penthouse overlooked Central Park from the 72nd floor. He had everything except the one thing that mattered. His son, not dead, worse, unreachable. 7-year-old Ethan hadn't spoken in 18 months, not since the accident, not since the car flipped on the West Side Highway, and his mother died on impact while Ethan walked away without a scratch. Physically, at least. The doctors had a name for it. Selective mutism triggered by severe trauma. They said it with the kind of clinical detachment that made Marcus want to put his fist through walls. They gave him pamphlets, referred him to specialists, speech therapists, child psychologists, trauma counselors, play therapists. Marcus hired them all, $12,000 a week in therapy, the best minds in pediatric psychology, private sessions, group sessions, art therapy, music therapy, equine therapy. Nothing worked. Ethan sat in their offices like a statue, beautiful, broken, silent. The prognosis came 6 months ago from Dr. Rebecca Steinberg, head of pediatric psychiatry at Columbia Presbyterian. She delivered it in her corner office with diplomas covering the walls and compassion in her eyes that Marcus found unbearable. "Mr. Brennan, I need you to understand something. Ethan's condition may be permanent. Some children who experience this level of trauma never speak again. We can continue treatment, but you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that your son may never recover." Never. That word followed Marcus everywhere. Never speak, never laugh, never call him dad again. Never ask for a bedtime story or complain about vegetables or sing off key in the shower. Marcus threw himself into work after that. Worked 16-hour days, slept in his office more than his bed, told himself he was providing for Ethan, securing his future, building something that would last. The truth was simpler and more painful. He couldn't bear to be home, couldn't bear to watch his son stare at walls, couldn't bear to see the ghost of his dead wife in every room, couldn't bear the silence that used to be filled with her laughter and Ethan's questions and the ordinary chaos of family life. So he ran, and he hired people to do what he couldn't: be there, show up, care. Section 2, the surveillance system. The cameras were installed 3 years ago after the third nanny stole jewelry worth $80,000 and disappeared. Marcus learned his lesson: trust no one, verify everything. 16 cameras throughout the penthouse, motion sensors in every room, live feed accessible from his phone, his laptop, anywhere in the world. He could watch Ethan's bedroom, the playroom, the kitchen, the hallways, could monitor every person who entered his home. He didn't feel guilty about it. Not anymore. Not after what happened. The first nanny, Elena from Romania, seemed perfect. References checked, out. Background clean. She lasted 4 months before Marcus discovered she was taking photos of the penthouse and selling them to tabloids. Interior shots of a billionaire's home fetched good money, apparently. The second nanny, Patricia, was recommended by Marcus's business partner. Older woman, experienced, maternal. She lasted 6 weeks before Marcus caught her on camera going through his desk, photographing private documents. Industrial espionage, his lawyer called it. Competitor paying her for information. The third was the jewelry theft. The fourth, Amanda, seemed cautious after the others. Too cautious. Marcus watched her on the cameras and noticed she barely interacted with Ethan, just kept him fed and clean and parked in front of the television. When Marcus confronted her, she quit on the spot. "Your son doesn't want help," she said coldly. "And frankly, neither do you. You just want someone to warehouse him while you work." The fifth tried to get Ethan diagnosed with additional conditions so she could increase her billing. Wanted Marcus to put him on medications he didn't need. Marcus fired her within a week. Numbers 6, 7, and 8 quit. Couldn't handle the silence, they said. Couldn't handle a child who wouldn't respond. Couldn't handle the pressure of working under surveillance. Number 9 lasted 2 months before she started bringing her boyfriend to the penthouse during work hours. Marcus watched them on camera using his bed. She was gone that afternoon. Number 10 stole food, not expensive items, just food. Leftover takeout, groceries, pantry items. Marcus let it go on for 3 weeks, watching her sneak things into her bag, trying to understand. Was she struggling, feeding someone at home, or just entitled? He never found out, never asked, just fired her over email like a coward. 11 caregivers in 3 years, 11 betrayals, 11 reasons why Marcus installed more cameras, ran deeper background checks, built higher walls around his son and himself. By the time Carmen arrived, Marcus had stopped believing in people entirely. Section 3. The humble caregiver arrives. Carmen Reyes came through the most expensive agency in New York. Dominican, 41 years old, certified in special needs care. The agency said she'd worked with nonverbal children before, said she was patient, experienced, reliable. Marcus interviewed her in his study on a Tuesday afternoon. She sat across from his desk in pressed scrubs, hands folded in her lap, eyes steady. "I've read Ethan's file," she said. Her voice was soft but firm, accent present but not heavy. Selective mutism following maternal loss. 18 months without speech. 12 specialists with no progress. "That's right. And you want me to follow their protocols? Continue their methods?" "That's what they recommended." Carmen was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that surprised him. "Mr. Brennan, with respect, if 12 specialists using the same approaches haven't helped your son in 18 months, maybe it's time to try something different." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "Different how?" "I don't know yet. Every child is different, but I've found that sometimes children who've stopped speaking don't need more words thrown at them. They need someone who's comfortable with silence, who doesn't treat their silence like a problem to fix, but like a language to learn." It was the first thing anyone had said in 3 years that didn't sound like it came from a textbook. "The rules are simple," Marcus said, pulling out the contract. "No visitors, no photographs, no discussing this family with anyone. You're on camera at all times. That's non-negotiable. And you follow the schedule. Meals, medication if prescribed, activities outlined by his therapists. Nothing beyond that." "No bonding," Carmen said quietly. It wasn't a question. "No bonding. He's been through enough. I won't have someone else get close just to leave." Carmen's eyes met his. There was something in them, not judgment exactly, more like understanding mixed with sadness. "I understand." "Do you?" "Yes. You're protecting him and yourself." The words landed harder than Marcus expected. He cleared his throat. "Salary is discussed in the contract. Background check is still pending. You start Monday, if it clears." "It will clear. Confident. Honest. I don't have anything to hide." She was right. The background check came back spotless. Not even a parking ticket. That first Monday morning, Carmen arrived at 6:30 exactly. Marcus answered the door, showed her through the penthouse, pointed out the cameras. She didn't flinch, didn't ask him to turn them off or give her privacy. Just nodded. "Ethan's in his room. He doesn't respond to greetings. Doesn't acknowledge presence. Don't take it personally." "I won't." Marcus showed her to Ethan's door, knocked once. "Ethan, this is Carmen. She'll be here during the day now." No response, not even movement. Carmen walked in slowly. Marcus watched from the doorway. Ethan sat by his window, staring at Central Park below. He didn't turn, didn't blink. Carmen didn't approach him, didn't kneel down with a bright smile and enthusiastic greeting like the others had. She just stood there. Then she said quietly, "Hello, Ethan. I'm Carmen. I'm going to be here with you. You don't have to talk to me. You don't have to look at me. I'm just letting you know I'm here." Then she walked to the other side of the room and started organizing his bookshelf. Quiet, unobtrusive, giving him space. Marcus watched for another minute, then left for his office downtown. That night, he opened the security app on his phone, scrolled through the day's footage, watched Carmen move through the penthouse, kitchen, playroom, Ethan's room. She didn't try to force interaction, didn't pepper him with questions like the others, just existed alongside him, made lunch, set it near him, cleaned up whether he ate or not. No pressure. Around 3 in the afternoon, Marcus watched her sit on the floor near Ethan's window, not next to him, just near. She pulled out a book and started reading aloud, softly, some children's book about a boy and a whale. Ethan didn't react, didn't turn his head, but Marcus noticed something. His son's shoulders relaxed, just slightly, just enough. Marcus rewound the footage, watched it again, then a third time. Nothing suspicious, no theft, no phone calls, no photographs, just a woman reading to a boy who couldn't hear kindness anymore. Marcus closed the app, told himself it meant nothing. She'd be gone in a month like all the others. But something in his chest felt different, something that might have been hope if he still remembered what that felt like. Section 4. The Breaking of Protocol. 2 weeks passed. Carmen showed up every morning at 6:30, left every afternoon at 4, never late, never called in sick, never asked for time off. Marcus watched her on the cameras every day, couldn't help it. The footage became his evening ritual. Pour whiskey, open laptop, watch. She was breaking protocol. Small things at first, playing music during lunch, classical piano, soft jazz, nothing jarring. The therapists had said no music, too stimulating, might overwhelm him, but Ethan didn't seem overwhelmed. Marcus watched his son's fingers tap against his leg, not quite rhythm, but not nothing either. Carmen started doing these repetitive exercises. She'd hold up colored blocks, say the color, set them down, over and over, red, blue, green, yellow. No expectation that Ethan would repeat, no quizzes, no tests, just information offered freely. Red, blue, green, yellow. The therapists had said this was useless. Children with selective mutism needed cognitive behavioral interventions, not rote memorization. But Marcus noticed something. By the end of week 2, when Carmen held up the red block, Ethan's eyes focused on it, actually focused, not staring through it like he did with everything else. Week 3, Carmen started doing something else, something that made Marcus pause the footage and rewind. She was praying, not loud, not performative, just quiet words before meals. Head bowed, hands folded, sometimes in Spanish, sometimes in English, always gentle. Thank you for this food. Thank you for this day. Please watch over Ethan and his father. Help them find peace. The therapists definitely hadn't prescribed prayer. Marcus himself hadn't prayed since the funeral, since he stood in that cemetery and realized God wasn't listening, wasn't there, had never been there. But he didn't stop her. Something about watching her bow her head, about the way Ethan's eyes would drift to her face during those moments, made Marcus leave it alone. By week 4, things were changing. Small things, microscopic things. But Marcus had watched 18 months of nothing. He knew the difference between nothing and something. Ethan started sitting closer to Carmen, not right next to her, but closer, instead of across the room, now just a few feet away. He ate more, not a lot, but Carmen would set food near him and he'd pick at it, sometimes finish half, and his eyes, God, his eyes were different, still sad, still haunted, but not quite as empty. Marcus found himself rushing home from work, getting there by 5 just to see Ethan before bedtime. His son never acknowledged him, never looked at him. But Marcus would stand in the doorway and watch him sleep and feel something crack open in his chest. One Friday evening, Marcus came home to find Carmen cleaning up the playroom. Ethan was already in bed. "How was he today?" Marcus asked. First time he'd initiated conversation with her. Carmen looked up, surprised. "He's doing well, Mr. Brennan." "Is he?" "Yes, small steps, but forward." Marcus nodded. Wanted to say more, wanted to ask what she was doing that 12 specialists couldn't do, wanted to know if she really thought Ethan could come back. But the words stuck in his throat. Trusting someone, asking someone, hoping with someone that required vulnerability, Marcus had locked away. "Thank you," he said instead. Hollow, meaningless. Carmen smiled anyway. "You're welcome." That night, Marcus watched the footage from that day, saw Carmen working with Ethan, saw her patience, saw her consistency, saw something else too, love. Not the professional kind, not the I'm getting paid kind, real love. The kind that shows up in tiny gestures, the way she adjusted Ethan's collar, the way she made sure his favorite cup was clean, the way she said his name like it was precious. Marcus closed his laptop, sat in the dark of his study, and for the first time since the accident, he allowed himself to wonder, what if she's different? What if she stays? What if Ethan comes back? The hope was dangerous. It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. One wrong step and he'd fall into grief so deep, he'd never climb out. But maybe, just maybe, it was worth the risk. Outside, the city glittered 72 floors below. Inside, his son slept in silence. And somewhere between the two, Marcus Brennan started to believe that impossible things might still be possible. If he could just learn to trust again, if he could just learn to let someone in, if he could just learn that the walls he built to protect his son might be the very things keeping him trapped. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Week 6 brought something Marcus couldn't ignore anymore. He was in a meeting with Japanese investors when his phone buzzed. Security alert. Motion detected in Ethan's room outside normal patterns. Marcus excused himself, stepped into the hallway, opened the app. What he saw made his breath catch. Ethan was standing, not sitting by the window like he did every day. Standing in the middle of his room, watching Carmen arrange something on his desk. She'd brought wooden puzzle pieces, simple shapes. Circle, square, triangle, star. She was setting them out slowly, naming each one softly. Circle, round like the sun, square, 4 equal sides, triangle, 3 points like a mountain. Ethan took one step forward, then another. Marcus's hands started shaking. His son hadn't walked toward anyone in 18 months, hadn't shown interest in anything, just sat, just stared. But now he was moving, slowly, carefully, like a bird learning to trust. He reached the desk. His small hand hovered over the shapes. Carmen didn't react, didn't gasp or celebrate or make it into a moment, just kept her voice steady. "You can touch them if you want. No pressure." Ethan's fingers closed around the circle, lifted it, turned it over in his palm. Marcus was standing in a hallway of his office building, tears streaming down his face, watching his son interact with the world for the first time since his mother died. The Japanese investors could wait. The $8 billion fund could wait. Everything could wait. He watched for 20 more minutes, watched Ethan pick up each shape, watched Carmen name them again and again. Patient, endless patience. When Ethan finally set the last piece down and returned to his window, Marcus saw something on his son's face he'd forgotten existed. Peace. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He pulled up weeks of footage, started documenting everything, every small change, every moment of progress. Week 1, Ethan's shoulders relaxed during reading time. Week 2, eye contact with colored blocks. Week 3, eating 50% of meals instead of 20. Week 4, sitting 3 feet closer to Carmen instead of across the room. Week 5, finishing an entire lunch, making direct eye contact twice. Week 6, walking toward Carmen, engaging with puzzle pieces, sustained focus for 23 minutes. The data was irrefutable. Ethan was improving, not slowly, rapidly, consistently. Marcus started researching Carmen's methods, found studies on nonverbal communication therapy, found research on trauma recovery through routine and unconditional presence, found papers on the effectiveness of music therapy, repetitive learning, and faith-based emotional support for traumatized children. Everything she was doing had scientific backing. The specialists had known these methods existed. They just hadn't tried them. Too unconventional, too simple, too rooted in relationship instead of clinical distance. Carmen had looked at his son and seen what the specialists couldn't see, that Ethan didn't need another expert. He needed someone who would stay, someone who wouldn't give up, someone who loved him not because they were paid to, but because that's what he deserved. Marcus sat in his study at 3 a.m, surrounded by research papers and footage, and realized something that made his stomach turn. A woman making $45,000 a year had succeeded where doctors charging $12,000 a week had failed. Not because she was smarter, because she cared more. It happened on a Thursday afternoon, week 8. Marcus left work early. Merger talks had collapsed. He was frustrated, exhausted, decided to go home, pour whiskey, watch the footage like he did every night. He walked into his penthouse at 2:30. Carmen wasn't expecting him for hours. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. Marcus set down his briefcase, loosened his tie, walked toward Ethan's room. He heard something, stopped in the hallway, listened. Music, soft piano music playing from Ethan's room, and something else, something impossible. Laughter. Marcus's heart stopped. Actually stopped. He stood frozen in his own hallway, afraid to move, afraid to breathe, afraid this was a dream he'd wake from. He moved to the doorway, looked inside. Carmen was sitting on the floor, rolling a ball back and forth. Simple game, something toddlers play. And Ethan, his 7-year-old son, who hadn't made a sound in 18 months, was laughing. Not loud, not shouting, just soft giggles. The kind of sound Marcus had forgotten existed. The kind of sound he used to hear every day before the accident, before the silence, before the world ended. Carmen rolled the ball. Ethan caught it, rolled it back, laughed again. "Good job, Ethan, you're so good at this." Ethan smiled, actually smiled. His whole face lit up. Then he did something that made Marcus's knees buckle. He spoke. Again. One word, quiet, raspy from disuse, but clear, unmistakable, real. Again. Marcus grabbed the door frame. His legs wouldn't hold him. His chest cracked open. Everything he'd held together for 18 months, all the grief, all the fear, all the desperate hope he'd been too afraid to feel came flooding out. Carmen looked up, saw him. Her eyes went wide. "Mr. Brennan, I didn't hear you come in." Marcus couldn't speak, couldn't move, just stood there with tears pouring down his face, staring at his son, his beautiful, broken, healing son who'd just said a word. Ethan turned, saw his father. The smile faded from his face. He went still, silent again. "No, no, no, no." "Ethan," Marcus whispered. His voice was shaking. "Ethan, can you say it again? Can you say anything?" Ethan stared at him, then turned back to Carmen, rolled the ball to her, silent. Marcus felt something inside him shatter. His son had spoken, had laughed, had come back to life. But not for him, for her, for a stranger who'd been here 8 weeks. While Marcus, his own father, couldn't get him to make eye contact. That night Marcus couldn't think straight, couldn't process what he'd seen. His son had spoken. That should have been the greatest moment of his life, should have been cause for celebration. Instead, all Marcus could feel was rage. Rage at the unfairness. Rage at the fact that he'd paid $12,000 a week to specialists who did nothing, while a woman making $45,000 a year changed everything. Rage that his son loved someone else more than him, but mostly rage at himself, at the fact that he'd been absent, that he'd run from the grief instead of sitting in it with Ethan, that he'd hired people to do what he should have done himself. And Carmen had done what he couldn't do, had reached his son when Marcus had given up trying. The jealousy was irrational, he knew that, but knowing didn't make it stop. By morning, Marcus had convinced himself this was dangerous. Carmen was getting too close. creating unhealthy attachment, giving false hope. This wasn't sustainable. What happened when she left? What happened when Ethan lost someone else? He was protecting his son. That's what he told himself. Protecting him from inevitable abandonment. Friday morning, Carmen arrived at 6:30 like always. Marcus was waiting. "We need to talk." She set down her bag, concerned. "Of course. Is Ethan all right?" "That's exactly what I want to discuss. Your approach with him, it's concerning." Carmen's brow furrowed. "I don't understand. He's making remarkable progress. Yesterday, he spoke his first words in 18 months. And that's the problem. You're pushing him too hard, creating dependency. What you're doing, it's not sustainable. It's not appropriate." "Mr. Brennan, with respect, what I'm doing is working. Ethan is healing. Or you're giving him false hope, getting him attached to someone who's going to leave eventually. Everyone leaves." The words hung in the air. Carmen's eyes softened with understanding. That made Marcus angrier. "This isn't about Ethan, is it? This is about you. Don't psychoanalyze me. You're afraid. Afraid he loves me more than you. Afraid you've been replaced." The truth of it hit like a slap. Marcus's voice went cold. "You're fired. Effective immediately." Carmen's face went pale. "Mr. Brennan, please, think about what you're doing." "I have. Pack your things. I'll wire 2 weeks severance. This isn't about money. It's about Ethan. He's finally healing. If you do this, if you take away the one person who's made him feel safe again, you'll destroy all his progress. My son is not your concern anymore. Leave." Carmen stood there, tears gathering in her eyes. Not for herself. Marcus could see that. For Ethan. "I'll go," she said quietly. "But please, Mr. Brennan, don't do this out of pride. Don't let your pain hurt him more than he's already been hurt." She walked to Ethan's room. Marcus heard her voice, soft and breaking. "Ethan, sweetheart, I have to go away for a while. But I want you to know something. You are so brave, so strong, so loved. And what you did yesterday, speaking, laughing, that was all you. You did that, and you're going to keep getting better." Silence. Then a sound that destroyed Marcus. Ethan crying, not loud, just soft, broken sobs. "No." Ethan's voice, clear despite the tears. "Don't go. Please don't go. I have to, sweetheart. I'm so sorry. Everyone leaves. Everyone leaves me." Carmen's voice broke completely. "I know, baby, I know, but some people will stay, I promise. You just have to keep being brave." She walked out, face streaked with tears, and didn't look at Marcus. Just left. The door closed, and Marcus stood in his penthouse, in the silence, and realized what he'd done. 3 days. That's how long it took for Marcus to understand he'd made the worst mistake of his life. Ethan stopped eating entirely, stopped getting out of bed, returned to staring at walls. But this time it was worse, because now he knew what he'd lost. Now he understood that people who loved him disappeared. "Ethan, please, you have to eat something." Nothing. No response, no acknowledgement. Marcus tried everything, brought in his son's favorite foods, tried reading to him the way Carmen had, tried the colored blocks, the puzzle pieces. Ethan turned his back. On day 4, Marcus's housekeeper, Gloria, who'd been with the family for a decade, confronted him. "What did you do?" "Excuse me?" "That woman, Carmen, she was helping him. He was getting better, and you fired her. Why?" Marcus couldn't answer, couldn't admit the truth. "You destroyed the only good thing that happened to this boy since his mother died," Gloria said, voice shaking with anger. "And for what? Your pride, your jealousy. You're so busy protecting yourself that you can't see you're the one hurting him." She walked away, left Marcus standing alone, again. That night, Marcus went to Ethan's room. His son was asleep, face pressed into his pillow, tear-stained cheeks. Marcus saw something on the nightstand. A drawing, crayon on paper, 3 stick figures, one tall with dark hair, one smaller, one medium-sized with a smile. Dad, Ethan, Carmen, a family. Marcus picked it up with shaking hands. Ethan had drawn this, had imagined this, a world where they were together, where he wasn't alone, and Marcus had destroyed it. He pulled out his phone, searched the agency records, found Carmen's address, a neighborhood in Washington Heights. Small apartment building. Saturday morning, Marcus drove uptown, parked outside her building, climbed 3 flights of stairs, knocked on apartment 3C. A teenage girl answered, looked at him suspiciously. "Who are you?" "My name is Marcus Brennan. I'm looking for Carmen Reyes." "She doesn't want to see you. Please, I need to talk to her. It's about Ethan." The girl's face hardened. "You're the one who fired her, made her cry for 3 days, made her feel like she failed." "I know, I was wrong. Please, I just need 5 minutes." "No." The door slammed in his face. Marcus stood there, stared at the closed door, the rejection he deserved. He knocked again and again. On the 4th knock, the door opened. Carmen stood there, eyes red, face exhausted. "Mr. Brennan, you need to leave." "Carmen, please, I'm sorry. I made a terrible mistake. Ethan needs you. He's not eating, not speaking. He drew this." Marcus held up the picture with shaking hands. "He drew us as a family, and I destroyed it because I was jealous and afraid and too broken to see that you were saving him." Carmen's eyes filled with tears as she looked at the drawing. "Please come back, not for me, for him. I'll pay you anything. I'll give you whatever you need. Just please don't let my pride destroy my son." "This isn't about money," Carmen said softly. "It never was. I know it's about him. It's about the fact that you loved him when I was too afraid to. You showed up when I ran away. You stayed when everyone else left. And I'm begging you, as a father who's failed his son, please give us another chance." Carmen looked at him for a long moment, then at the drawing in his hands. "If I come back," she said finally, "things change. You don't get to hide anymore. You don't get to watch from your office and pretend that's enough. You show up. You sit with him. You be present." "I will, I promise. And you don't fire me when it gets hard. When he loves me, or when he loves you, or when he's angry at both of us. You commit to this, to him, to being the father he deserves." Marcus felt tears stream down his face. "I will, I swear on my life." Carmen was quiet, then she nodded. "I'll come Monday morning." Monday, 6:30. Carmen walked through the door. Ethan was in his room, had been there all weekend. When he heard her voice, he came running, actually running. "Carmen!" She knelt down, caught him as he crashed into her, held him while he cried and clung to her and whispered, "You came back. You came back. I told you some people stay. I'm one of them." Marcus watched from the doorway. This time no jealousy, just gratitude. Pure, overwhelming gratitude. That afternoon, Carmen sat Marcus down. "We're going to do this together. I'll work with Ethan in the mornings. You're going to work from home 3 days a week. Be present, join our sessions. Learn what I'm doing so you can do it too." "Okay." "And we're going to be honest with him, about his mother, about the grief, about the fact that healing doesn't mean forgetting." Marcus nodded, terrified, but ready. The weeks that followed were hard. There were setbacks. Days when Ethan was angry, when he yelled at both of them, when he asked why his mother had to die. Days when Marcus wanted to run back to his office and hide. But Carmen was there, and she taught him something, that showing up wasn't about being perfect. It was about being present, about sitting in the hard moments, about loving someone even when it hurt. 3 months later, Ethan was speaking in full sentences, laughing regularly, playing, still grieving, still healing, but alive again. Marcus restructured his entire life. Hired a deputy to run the fund, worked from home 4 days a week, had dinner with Ethan every night, read to him, played with him, became the father he should have been all along. And Carmen stayed, not just as Ethan's caregiver, as family. One evening, they were all in the playroom. Ethan building blocks, Carmen reading, Marcus working on his laptop, but actually present, actually there. "Dad," Ethan said. Marcus looked up. "Yeah, buddy. Do you think Mom would be happy that Carmen's here, that we're okay now?" Marcus's throat tightened. He looked at Carmen. She nodded encouragement. Yeah, Ethan, I think she would be. I think she's been watching, waiting for us to find our way, and I think she sent Carmen to help us. Ethan smiled, went back to his blocks, content, safe, home. That night, after Ethan was asleep, Marcus found Carmen in the kitchen. Thank you, he said simply. For what? For not giving up on him, on us, for showing me what it means to actually love someone. Carmen smiled. You're welcome. But Marcus, you did the hard part. You let yourself be vulnerable. You let yourself change. That takes more courage than anything I did. They stood there in the quiet kitchen. Not employer and employee, not anymore. Family, real, chosen, hard-won family. Outside, the city glittered 72 floors below. Inside, a little boy slept peacefully, no longer haunted by silence. And somewhere between grief and healing, Marcus Brennan learned that the greatest wealth isn't what you accumulate. It's who you become when you finally stop running. When you finally let love in. When you finally understand that being present, being real, being broken and healing together, that's what actually matters. Some people are sent into our lives to save us, not from circumstances, from ourselves. Carmen saved Ethan, but she saved Marcus too, and that was worth more than 43 buildings, $8 billion, and every empty achievement he'd ever chased. That was everything. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.